Number 8. NICOLA RAYBONE. British woman NICOLA RAYBONE drowned on the Caribbean island of Antigua in the summer of 2012 after becoming trapped in quicksand. The 33-year-old and her 2 children had flown out to a luxury resort on the island to attend her father's second marriage. She'd met some friends for drinks at the bar, but as the others left for dinner, RAYBONE went for a walk on the beach to watch the sunset. It was there that RAYBONE got stuck in quicksand, with light fading and water levels rising. Even though in the past, visitors had reported problems with quicksand, there reportedly were no warning signs on the beach. Family, friends, and resort staff launched a desperate search for the woman after her sandals and phone were discovered in the bar area. Rescuers heard RAYBONE screaming but failed to find her in the pitch-black darkness. The tide was rough and high that night. By the time they located her near the shoreline, RAYBONE had already drowned. Number 7. Ryan Osman and Jessica McNeil. In February of 2019, Ryan Osman and his girlfriend Jessica McNeil were hiking through an area known as the subway route of Utah's Zion National Park. The couple had been using a stick to gauge which areas of riverbed were safe to cross. At some point as they were crossing, McNeil fell forward on her hands and knees. She started slowly sinking in quicksand. 34-year-old Osman told her to stay calm and then helped her get out. However, in doing so, he'd also gotten stuck and was no longer able to free his right leg. Osman would later claim it felt like being trapped in quick-drying concrete. The couple had tried to use various anchoring points, including McNeil's own body, but it didn't work. She was forced to abandon him, to hike back and find cell phone signal so that they could call rescuers. She'd later referred to the decision as the most difficult she'd ever had to make. McNeil was unsure she'd be able to complete the hike alone or if she'd see Osman alive again. After 3 hours of trekking, McNeil found park rangers to assist in the rescue efforts. 7 more hours would go by before they were able to locate Osman. During this time, he'd started suffering from exposure and muscle damage. Because his leg was in constant contact with cold water, Osman believed he'd ultimately require amputation. Fortunately, it wasn't the case. It took the rangers 2 hours of combined work in conditions of falling snow and 17-degree Fahrenheit temperatures to extract Osman from the quicksand. A snowstorm then forced the couple and the rangers to camp in the park overnight. The next day, Osman was airlifted to safety and he ultimately recovered. Number 6. Jose Ray Escobedo. On July the 7th of 2015, Texas man Jose Ray Escobedo was reported missing 2 days after he'd left to pick up a prescription and failed to return. On the 8th, local police received a call concerning a light blue sedan that had been parked under the San Antonio River Bridge in Goliad County for several days. Officers retrieved shoes and glasses from the vehicle, which were later reported as belonging to 50-year-old Escobedo. According to his family, he would sometimes swim in the river alone. A helicopter performed an aerial sweep of the area, but found no trace of him. It was only after the river was searched by boat that Escobedo was found roughly 350 yards from where he'd parked his car. His lifeless body was lodged in quicksand up to the bottom of his buttocks. A coroner would rule his death as drowning. In the early days of July, the San Antonio River, upstream from where Escobedo was discovered, rose to 8.3 feet from an average of 5 to 6. It's believed that he'd gotten trapped in the quicksand and then, unable to break free, drowned as the water flowed downriver. Number 5. Horses trapped on Welsh beach. In late November of 2019, firefighters in South Wales had to rescue 2 horses after they'd gotten stuck in quicksand at a beach in Glamorgan. Metham Moor is a wide beach known for its dune system, which stretches for hundreds of acres and is ranked as the 2nd highest in Europe. Claire Healy and her daughter had been riding on the beach. Healy then watched as her horse started sinking into the ground, unable to break free. Her daughter's pony followed suit. Healy had been struggling to save the agitated horses from the quicksand herself before rescuers arrived at the scene. In a Facebook post warning other horse riders about the dangers, she described the incident as the worst day ever. Fortunately, both animals were successfully extracted and headed for recovery. Number 4. Tragedy at CAMBER Sands. In the summer of 2016, 5 Londoners died at CAMBER Sands in East Sussex in an incident that involved quicksand and a strong tidal flow. The victims were identified as 19-year-old Kennigan Nathan and his brother Kobe, aged 22, as well as Nithasan Ravi, Inthushan Srikantharasa and Kurashanth Srihavaraja, all in their 20s. On what was reported as the hottest day of the year, the childhood friends had taken to the beach. They had headed out to sea to play volleyball, but were caught in a deadly combination of sand and the incoming tide. Kenegan and Inthushan became trapped underwater after their legs were sucked into a sandbar that effectively acted like quicksand. The others tried to help them but soon found themselves in difficulty as well. Those caught in a strong tidal current will often succumb to exhaustion as they try to oppose it. Panic tends to set in, and most will push for the shore directly, instead of the recommended technique of swimming parallel to it. All members of the group, described as strong swimmers, were overpowered by the tide. Kurashant's lifeless body was the first to be retrieved from the water. Nitharshan and Kobe, who was the youngest of the group, were brought out afterwards. They both had faint and fading pulses as paramedics struggled to revive them, much to the horror of thousands of beachgoers. As the tide went out later that evening, the bodies of Kenegan and Inthushan were found washed up on the shore. In the aftermath, the victims' families criticized the administrative authorities for not having lifeguards permanently on duty at CAMBER Sands. Number 3. Robbie Tessar. In 2011, a man taking part in a survival expedition to eastern Utah spent over a dozen hours trapped in quicksand. 25-year-old Robbie Tessar, originally from Vermont, was near the Dirty Devil River. He chose to walk over a sandy area as he attempted to cross from one bank to the other. Within seconds, Tessar started to sink. Other members of the expedition tried to free him, but it was to no avail. The quicksand contained thick clay which acted like concrete, holding Tessar firmly in place, rendering him unable to even move his feet. The hikers activated an emergency alert beacon and a helicopter was dispatched to their position. Hours went by with Tessar up to his mid-thighs in quicksand. The river water eventually rose to his waist. Temperatures had dropped to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and there were concerns he'd freeze to death. Rescuers arrived at the scene and encircled Tessar using rafts. Some started digging him out while others held onto his body to prevent him from sinking again. At around 1 a.m., Tessar was freed after having spent roughly 13 hours in quicksand. He was treated for cold exposure at a local hospital and later rejoined the expedition. Today's topic was requested by Andres. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Abdullah Muhammad. As reported by Egypt Independent in 2020, security guards from the Rabaa archaeological area alerted the authorities after one of their colleagues had died in a quicksand incident. The Tal al-Rabaa or Rabaa Hill is one of the most important archaeological areas in the Dakhwaliya Governorate. It covers more than 230 acres and is home to a plethora of antiquities. The guard, identified as Abdullah Muhammad, was presumably on a patrol when he fell into a pit of quicksand at the archaeological hill. The others were unable to rescue him and he passed away. According to the media outlet, his body was airlifted from the site following the removal of massive quantities of sand. Further reports on the accident are scarce. However, it's possible Muhammad had succumbed to dry quicksand. The existence of it, from reports of travelers and entire caravans being swallowed instantly, has historically been questioned. Dry quicksand was ultimately proven in a laboratory setting, but its prevalence in nature remains unknown. The granular material, which doesn't contain any water, is arguably more dangerous than the wet variation. Because of the presence of air, it yields rapidly to weight, meaning that one may actually drown in it. Human body density typically prevents that from happening when people get stuck in the more widespread quicksand variation. Number 1. Terry Howlett. In 1996, Englishman Terry Howlett was rescued after spending roughly 11 hours in quicksand, with sea levels rising up to his chin. 29-year-old Howlett had gone for a walk at about 10 p.m. at the mudflats of Coat Stones in Morecambe Bay. Howlett initially got trapped up to his knees. Overnight, he panicked and, as he repeatedly tried to force his way out, sank deeper until the mud reached his waist. At around 7 a.m., a local farmer heard his desperate screams. A rescue effort was mounted that included Coast Guards along with fire, paramedic, and police crews. The 8-strong Coast Guard team used water pumps to dilute the mud trapping Howlett's body. They raced against the tide as the water had eventually started lapping around the man's chin. By the estimations of team leader George Crossman, it would have taken only an additional 15 minutes for Howlett to drown. When the man was extracted, he was suffering from severe hypothermia and was so exhausted that he could barely move. He was flown to a hospital where doctors were able to stabilize him. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be stuck in quicksand for 5 hours or have an embarrassing moment of your life become a meme? Let us know in the comments section below.